In the last video, we went over how to use or improve with AI functionalities to improve your prompts and edit them using AI. Now in this video, I want to go over the different voice settings that we have inside our voice AI agent. Like I mentioned previously, we have voice settings, speech settings, call settings and behavior, keypad input, agent actions, and brains. So we're going to go in depth into each one of these. We're going to play around with it. And at the end, I'm going to do a test with some parameters that have changed. So let's start off with the voice settings. The first parameter that we're going to be able to manipulate here inside our voice settings is going to be the voice. If you notice right now, the default voice is Marisa, but if I click on this drop down, a pop-up window is going to show up and I'm going to see a list of more voices. Some of these voices are meant for a specific language. Some of these are meant for English with different accents. So if I click on filters, I'm going to be able to filter them and only see the ones that I'm interested in. So in this case, I'm choosing American accent, but let's say if you're in Europe, you might want to use a British accent. For now, let's keep it American. We can choose the gender. So depending on your prompt and what name you give it to the agent, you might want to choose between male and female. In this case, the name is Hera, so we're just going to go with female. You can choose the age if you want it to sound young, middle age, or a older person. For now, let's click young. And the provider, don't worry too much about the provider because it's selected automatically depending on the voice that you choose. So I'm just going to apply these filters and see what we have. Like I mentioned, the one that we use by default is Marisa. It's one of our best sounding voices. And then from this list, you're going to be able to, you're going to see that we have a play button next to each one of them. And you're going to be able to test it and hear what it sounds like. So for example, Lily over here.
Welcome. Introducing Lily, your AI helper designed to illuminate your work with innovative solutions and dynamic assistance.
We have Chloe.
Hello, I'm Chloe, here to lend a hand with a smile. How can I make things easier for you today?
Then we have Anna.
Greetings, I'm Anna, your wilderness-inspired AI guide, aiming to navigate and protect your digital environment with precision.
So if you notice, all of these sound young, but they might have a different sort of energy and way of sounding or volume. So in this case, I'm just going to choose Anna. And like I mentioned, the voice model is just who's the provider of this voice. This one is being provided by 11 Labs. Don't worry about this parameter. It gets chosen automatically with the voice that you pick. So we're going to go into voice speed. The voice speed is just going to be how fast the agent talks. We have the ability to move it between 0.5 and 2. The default's always going to be 1. But if you wanted to talk faster, we can go into like 1.4. Like I mentioned, we're going to test this in a little bit. 1.4 can be a little bit fast depending on your use case and how fast you want the agent to talk. Then we have voice temperature. This is going to be how the AI's tone and style adjusts to what's in your prompt. So if in your prompt you have something that says you must sound really serious all the time, you might want to drop the temperature closer to 0. And if you don't care how your agent's tone is, or if you want the agent to be a little bit more independent when it comes to its tone, you can put it over 1. Usually this parameter is kept close to 1, or if not, just 1. But like I said, if you want it to be strictly serious or strictly happy, then you might want to drop this number down. Then we're going to have the voice volume, pretty self-explanatory. This is just how loud the voice is going to sound whenever someone calls. If you see when we were testing the different voices, they all sound a little bit different in terms of volume. So depending on what it sounds like, you might want to adjust this so that it doesn't sound too quiet or too loud. Moving on to our speech settings. Our speech settings, we have the ability to choose a background sound, and this is a very cool feature and parameter to play around. We're able to add a background sound during our call. So for example, if you wanted to sound like the agent is in a coffee shop, we can add that. Maybe if it's in a convention call or even a call center, we can choose that. So I'm going to choose a call center, and we're going to be able to manipulate how loud we want the background sound to be. Obviously, you don't want it to be too loud, or otherwise it's going to sound like it's on top of whatever the agent's saying, and it might be a distraction from your calls. But you can play around with this. Right now, I'm going to keep it at 1. Then we're going to have our responsiveness, which means how fast the AI reacts to whenever it receives a response from the caller. So the default is 1, and I recommend you keep it at 1 so that it sounds the most natural, because if you lower it, then there's going to be a delay from when the user says something to when the agent talks back. Then we have the interruption sensitivity. This parameter controls how easy it is for the caller to interrupt the agent when it's speaking. If you lower it all the way down, this means that the agent's going to say whatever it has to say without stopping if the caller says something. 0.8 is the default one. I recommend you leave it there. We have the active listening parameter. This basically adds verbal cues like yeah or uh-huh. That shows a little bit of active listening just to make it sound a little bit more natural. And then we have some other parameters here, but these are the main ones for speech. Call settings and behavior. We have voicemail detection. It says hang up or leave a voicemail if a voicemail is detected. This is very important and I recommend that you keep it on. Sometimes people have custom voicemails, which means that it's hard for the agent to detect if it's a voicemail or if the call is still going. And if it doesn't detect that it's a voicemail, then the call is just going to end until the voicemail ends, which is going to consume your credit. So highly recommend you keep this on. We can also manipulate when the agent ends the call if there's silence or they can't hear the person who is on the phone. 30 seconds is the default. Max call duration. If you want the agent to end the call after a certain period of time, for example, 10 minutes is the default, but if your calls are very short, you might want to lower this. We have the start behavior. This is going to say who's going to initiate the conversation. If you have an inbound caller, meaning that you post your phone number on your website and they're going to call directly to your agent, then you might want your agent to talk first because it's simulating that it's picking up the phone saying hello first. But if you're doing outbound calls like cold calling, then you might want the agent to wait for that person to say hello, who's this, before it talks. Otherwise, it might not sound very natural. So that covers call settings. We can also add keypad inputs, like whenever the user presses keys on the keyboard. For example, you want a specific action to happen if they press 2. Then here's where you would configure that. Then we have agent actions. This is what gives the agent superpowers. Basically, you can have different actions, such as booking something into your calendar directly while the call is being taken. You can transfer the call to a different number if the agent detects the intent is something specific. For example, here, by default, you're always going to have to end call, and this gives the agent the ability to end the call if it detects it's right. This is going to be something that you will have to specify inside your prompt. For example, end the call whenever the user says this. But if I click on add, we're going to see that we have some pre-built actions here. Like I mentioned, the call transfer, you are going to be able to set up which number do you want the agent to transfer the call to in the case of if something specific happening. We also have agent transfer. This is very cool. If you don't want it to transfer to a real human or a real phone number, you can transfer it to another agent that might be specified in a specific area. We have easy integrations with cal.com to add events into your calendar. But if let's say you're using something like Google Calendar, or if you're using a calendar inside your CRM, then that would be a custom action. And what a custom action is, it's basically a workflow inside our Flow Studio, which you would build and then connect to the agent, and in the prompt specify use this workflow whenever this happens. In a different module, we're going to go a little bit more in depth into our Flow Studio and how we can manipulate custom actions. Lastly, we have our brains. Brains are basically knowledge bases that we can give the agent. Think of these as all of your company information, SOPs that it must follow. Let's say a catalog or a list of products that you offer. You might not want to put that in the prompt if it's very extensive. You want to just add it as a brain or as a knowledge base, meaning you upload the files and then in the prompt you tell the agent, use the knowledge base, use your brain whenever the user asks about a specific item. And that's what the agent's going to do, is it's going to open its brain, look for a file, look for the information, and give it back to the user. So that pretty much covers everything in the settings tab. Why don't we go ahead and test the agent? Just before that, let's recap. I changed the voice. I put the speed up to 1.4 and I added a call center background sound. I'm going to put this a little bit louder just so that we notice the difference. Speed at 1.4, we're definitely going to notice it. Now I'm going to go into test agent and start the web call.
Hello, Joshua. This is Sarah from Apex Shield Roofing. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Great, thank you. I'm calling to remind you of your upcoming appointment on Jan...
Shit.
Hello, Joshua. This is Sarah from Apex Shield Roofing. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Great, thank you. I'm calling to remind you of your upcoming appointment on January 30th at 5 p.m.
So you can hear that it's talking really fast. It might not sound very natural, so I might want to lower it. Also, you can hear the keyboard sound and people talking in the background, so it just makes it a little bit more real. In the next video, I'm going to show you how you can set up a test phone number so that you can test it with a real phone number, because so far we've only been doing it through a web call, which means it's through our browser and not really through a phone number. So see you guys on the next video.